Thank you for joining us. Please enjoy this video from Father Houston.
Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Father Houston here at St. Vincent de Paul, wanting to offer you a brief message on this particular thought that we might often forget or not even recognize. This particular theme is idolatry, and it's very easy to do. Now, idolatry, just in its idea, is worshiping and praising and putting above a God that is not really God. There are, in a sense, little gods, things that we should not put above the one that actually made us and created us and sent us into the world to show forth his glory, a God that loves us, a God that seeks to restore us. And sometimes we put other things and make other things a priority above this one God. And it comes down to a certain idea, subsequently, of who can save us. We hear in the scriptures, and it's based upon our natural human disposition, we might find ourselves weary, tired, sometimes enslaved, sometimes burdened, overcome with lots and lots of worry. And we want to find something that can save us, that can satiate our pain, satiate our hunger. Who can save us? And it just so happens to be that we seek other things to save us. Now, is it the God that loves us? Or is it the other gods that we choose to love? It's very much so important to think of this concept in regards to leadership. Former President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, once said, leadership is getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. And we all want to have a sense of peace, have a sense of fulfillment, have a sense of accomplishment. We all want to belong. It just so happens to be that this belonging is in the kingdom of heaven. So if all of us seek to have that same one goal, there must be a leader or something that guides us on to that same goal. Who do we allow us to lead? It cannot be a thing that brings us self-glory. And if there's a certain leadership that style that allows us to be glorified, then that isn't something that we should ascribe to. So who do we allow ourselves to be led by? If we continue on in this theme, the theme of surrender becomes very, very much so important. Who do we surrender our thoughts to? Who do we surrender our good to? What drives us? What allows us to thrive? What steals our hearts, our imaginations? And surrender is very hard, but surrender is something that is very, very easy to do. Now, surrendering to the good that we really, really desire, a good that truly satiates our pain, is really, really hard to do. A lot of us may believe in God, of course, and a lot of us have a good aspect or sensibility of the faith. But sometimes we surrender ourselves to things that we shouldn't surrender ourselves to. Sometimes we surrender ourselves to the love of money. Sometimes we surrender ourselves to the love of our kids. Sometimes we surrender ourselves to our accomplishments, what we can do. Sometimes we surrender ourselves to our titles because it makes us think that it is who we are. But if we're surrendering ourselves to these things, therein lies the idolatry, where we are surrendering ourselves to things that die instead of that which lives forever. You might say, well, Father, it's good to be a great parent and have these ideals and do all these things. And I would say yes, but is that our number one in life? Because if God is not our number one, then everything that we do is more so for the self. So a remedy for this is to pay attention to God. Pay attention to God and what he's doing. and not necessarily what we are doing. Because if we do pay attention to God and what He's doing, we surrender ourselves to a will that brings us peace. I was at a parish far, far away, and a faithful was coming up to communion. And I believe this person received communion or was in the process of receiving communion from me. Meanwhile, she gave her phone to the daughter, 2 persons behind, to take a picture. And then just before receiving communion, or possibly even with communion in her mouth, she mentioned if she could take a picture with me. Of course, I was flabbergasted. That never happened to me before. And I gently told her that that's not something that was appropriate, and also gave that reminder to her daughter afterwards. After Mass, I went ahead and took that picture with them. And lo and behold, they told me that they were visiting. However, they were also extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. You might say, what? Shouldn't they know better? I would say yes. However, sometimes our faith may be kind of wavering. Sometimes it varies. Sometimes we place our trust in certain people instead of the God that is right there and present among us. Sometimes we forget. We all forget. We all make this mistake, not just at Mass, but even in our very lives, in which we depend upon ourselves and what we can do, or even in other people, instead of the God that saves us. My own best friend sometimes mentions, whenever I inform her of the various changes in the diocese and where priests move, and sometimes the sentiments we feel that a certain beloved priest is gone, she may remark and say, well, what happened? Did the priest take Jesus with him? And I love that comment so much, because sometimes we forget that Jesus is right there, present among us. We pay attention to him. We allow ourselves to be led by him so that we all can reach the promised land. And so, friends, just a quick reminder that God is poised, God is calm, God is balanced, and God brings us these gifts so that we can experience him. If there's anything that is leading us astray, to not experience that calm, that balance, that peace, now's the time to cut it off, root it out, and put God first. As soon as you do that, you will encounter peace, and God will show you the things that He is calling you to do, to demonstrate His love to the whole wide world, be it your kids, be it the people that don't know God, or be it people who are away from the faith. Idolatry, it is very easy to do, but friends, if we follow God's will, we will find it very easy to veer away from idolatry. Surrender to God, and He will do everything for you.